Hello YouTube fans, this is TheSkullKlown. I will do my I know someone wanted me to do my spell stuff. I do have some here in this book, but I will do a separate video about that right now. I did do a video about it, but it didn't came off the way I wanted to. But I will use a clip from that video for something else, because there was a video that I did about this that I didn't upload yet, because I might not upload it, I might just restart it and shit like that. But in that video, there was something that I was just like, you see, brothers and sisters, So I will probably upload that soon. I just have to cut the video and make it short and shit like that. But moving on, as you can tell from the title, I'm showing you Final Fantasy IX and the spiritual enlightenment stuff. Now, I'm not going to talk deep into it and all that. I'm just showing you some stuff that this orc made. This orc made a video about the poorly drawn summary of Final Fantasy IX. So I think the summary is fine. But I want you to pay attention, and I will discuss some of the stuff that that's in the game. And I played this game before. I'm playing through it right now and everything like that. I cut myself earlier for literally building. Literally, I built that right there. This right here. I built this right here. Has sigils and everything like that. Put a rock there. As you can tell, there's nails on there, so it can go up your frequency and stuff like that. So I just made that. So later on, I'll check my towers later on today and shit like that. But moving on, let's get started with this. I love Final Fantasy IX. If you never played Final Fantasy IX, that's fine. But to get a synopsis of how Final Fantasy IX is, I should tell you, because we lived in a world that was like a Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest. Just so you know. Yes. Reasons why there's Final Fantasy games and Dragon Quest games, you look at it and you're like, oh my god, and it resonates with you so much. So Final Fantasy IX and Dragon Quest XI resonate with me a lot. Not to say there's not other Dragon Quest or other Final Fantasies that resonate with me, but those two resonate with me a lot. So, without further ado, let's get started with the video real quick. So here we go. I'm going to show you it. Let this orc guy talk, and I'll pause on some of the stuff that I'm going to point out that he might not point out, but I want to point out here, because the game in general does say it, but it never tells you, oh, this is actually it. You have to think for it for yourself and shit like that, which most likely the game does imply, just doesn't tell you. So, So here we go. Let me go through here. Let me turn this on.
When a person is born, they receive their soul from a crystal deep in the plant's core, and when they die, their soul returns back to that crystal. This is a plant's soul cycle and is what keeps the planet healthy and, well, not dead. But if a plant's crystal gets all weak and sickly, then the soul cycle stops and life pretty much comes to an end, which is exactly what's happening on a planet called Terra. Naturally, the people of Terra weren't too thrilled about the whole end of the world thing, so they came up with a plan to take their dying crystal and shove it into a healthy new planet, restarting the soul cycle and bringing all the dead people back to life. So the people of Terra put their souls in a temporary stasis and create an android named Garland to take them and the crystal to a new planet where life can be reborn. Garland searched the galaxy for a couple thousand years, but has a hard time finding one that's uninhabited, and eventually settles on one named Gaia. The only problem is, Gaia is already populated with humans and rat people and whatever Quinn is supposed to be. And to take control of a planet's soul cycle, the new planet needs to be completely empty, or it's just going to be like, hey, I've already got my own thing going on, so, no thanks. Left with no better options, Garland attempts the fusion anyways, and the weaker Terran crystal ends up getting totally rejected. The old planet of Terra gets reborn in the core of Gaia, but really small. Like a Tootsie Pop. With the assimilation ending in a failure, Garland moves on to step 2 of his Plan Abduction for Dummies guidebook. He plops down a giant tree that reaches all the way down the crystals and acts as a filter for the soul cycle, keeping the souls of Gaia from returning to the crystal and only letting Terran souls be reborn. The lost Gaian souls get expelled into the atmosphere, covering most of the planet in a deep mist, with it being especially dank on the Mist Continent, which I'm going to assume was named because of all the mist. Or maybe it was already named the Mist Continent and the mist was just like, oh, sick, yeah, I'm just hanging out right here. Cool. Anyways, Mist really sucks. You put an animal into it, they turn into a significantly more evil version of that same animal. And if you inhale too much, you go crazy and want to commit atrocities like killing the innocent or playing gacha games. As Garland waits for the Mist monsters to kill everyone, he creates these things called genomes, which are pretty much humans but with tails and more empty inside than your average college student. Their only purpose in life is to be the new bodies for the people of Terra when their souls are finally ready to be reborn, so for now they just kind of pace back and forth for the next millennium. A couple thousand years pass, and Garland realizes that the mist really isn't doing that much. Everyone just moved their homes on top of mountains, and the Kingdom of Lindblum even found a way to use mist to power airships. Which is only slightly messed up when you realize they're pretty much using tormented human souls as a renewable resource.
Okay, now I will the whole part with the whole souls and all that. I'll get to that soon. And I do want to say this too. They didn't say spirits. They said souls when Garland was switching bodies and shit like that, and the souls needed bodies. And we created Garland. Yeah, you see, you heard that I said we. Remember, they're not using. Remember, the game, souls, not spirits. We have souls. These orcs had spirits. All right. Going more deeper into that too, of they're using the mist, which is the souls of the dead people. All right. So, and we're going to get more into it soon. But I want to point this out right here. You know how they mentioned Terra and then Gaia? Terra and Gaia are the same thing. Terra, which is right here on Google. Terra, in ancient Roman religion and mythology, Tellus matter, or Terra matter, not matter with T, just one T. Mother Earth is personification of the Earth. Right there. I don't have to read a lot, just right there in the first sentence, right here, just tells you it, Let me highlight that for you guys, so you guys can see it at least, because I know some people might be like, I can't see that shit. So, it happens with me, so I might as well just highlight it, so you guys can see it. You guys can pause it, and you guys can read it, and shit like that. So, you have that. And then we go to Gaia Wiki, and it says, in Greek mythology, Gaia from ancient Greek, let's see, a potential form of land or earth, also spelled as Gaia, Gaea, but I've seen in other video games, like in Shin Megami Tensei Apocalypse, they do spell Gaia with an A instead of with an E instead of an I. So there is that. Is the personification, I hope I'm saying that right, of Earth, and one of the Greek primordial deities. Gaia is a ancestral, sorry guys, ancestral, sorry, is an ancestral. Sorry, I can't pronounce these names right for some reason today. Is a goddess mother, sometimes portrayed as all life, and she is the mother of Uranus, the sky. From those sexual unions, she born the Titans themselves, the parents of many of the Olympian gods. Right? So just remember when Bobby Hemmett said that that we are the parents to the Olympian gods. So I'm sure Bobby Hemmett says something about that. So if I got that wrong, let me know so I can look at it again and shit like that. Because I looked at that video not so long ago, well, a while back. So sometimes you forget things and all that stuff. So if I'm right, comment down below saying I'm right. If I'm wrong, comment down below saying if I'm wrong. I'll recheck it. So that's why I always tell people that that you got to pay attention with Uranus and Gaia, which is Tiamat, because those two deities, they had kids together. Basically, it was basically like this: Mother Gaia created Uranus, and Uranus created other beings. Basically, kind of like what you got with the Galactic Mother and her son Anu. So it's like that basically, and then she created us, which is us, and then you get the whole Greek god story because we are the parents of the Greek gods. So, again, going back to Bobby Hemmett and stuff like that. So, again, going back, if I'm wrong with this stuff, come back and talk to me. You don't have to make a video saying, oh, I'm wrong and I'm lying to people. No, really, I'm just going with this and all that. And if I do get stuff wrong, let me know. Let me know. I'm not trying to spread no lies or anything like that. I'm just pointing out some of the stuff here that we are researching and what I'm researching. So going back to the video and shit like that. The reason I say that is because I don't want to be that person I don't want to be I don't want to I don't want to give people lies. You know, no, that's never my goal. That's never my intention. All right. So I apologize if I've gone information. So that's why if anyone tells you it or something like that, you'd be like, all right, just ignore the information from what you thought you knew, but you're like, forget it. That was wrong, and you learned something else better. You know, because you learned from that mistake. So, but moving on. Sorry about that, guys. I just have to talk about that. But moving on, let's continue on with the video.
To help speed up the whole extinction process, Garland creates a new genome named Kuja, whose job is to go down to Gaia and incite wars between the kingdoms. Despite looking like a cheap male stripper, Kuja is actually super powerful and is the only genome that isn't literally brain dead. However, Kuja possesses one fatal flaw in that he's unable to activate trance, which is basically this game's version of Super Saiyan or Limit Break, except you can't really control when it activates, meaning most of the time it gets wasted.
So, alright, I want to say real quick. You know how Garland had to put souls inside the vessels, and the vessels were like, and all that? It's kind of almost zombie-ish, but they're not really zombies because they still have souls, right? So, but Kuja knew who he was. He wasn't a brainless zombie, basically. So, the game tells you that Kuja knew who he was, basically, to the extent. He knew he was awake. He wasn't like the other ones. He knew that he was in tune and spiritual with himself, basically. You know, because he looked at his other brothers and sisters and he was like, all of you guys are asleep. I'm the one that's awake around here, trying to figure out what's going on around here, you know? So, moving on, trying to figure out who he is and shit like that. And going back, he can't do trance. He can't be a Super Saiyan like the main character, Zidane. And the other characters, like Vivi, Steiner, Quinlan, Ico, and Dagger. I hope I said her name right, Dagger again. I don't know. I feel like I said that twice already. And other characters you meet along the way. So.
On some innocent woodland creatures, except the sheep. Those things will fucking end you. So, like the caring father he is, Garland tosses Kuja in the trash and creates a new genome, with the hopes that this one could activate trance and maybe not grow up to look like your neighborhood sex offender. Seeing how much fun Garland was having with his new son, Kuja gets super jealous and kicks him off the spaceship. Naturally, this doesn't go too well with Pap, who disowns Kuja and banishes him from Terra and his super cool spaceship.
It kind of reminds me of the story of Enki and Enlil. That part right there. When Kuja gets jealous of his younger brother.
With unbridled teen angst, Kuja wanders Gaia in search of a power strong enough to overthrow Garland. Eventually he arrives in the city of Madain Sari, where a race of people called Summoners live. Along with having super cool horns, they also possess the ability to summon giant monsters called Eidolons, that can either have the power to destroy entire cities or do 500 damage depending on whether or not you're in a cutscene. Before Kuja can get his hands on an Eidolon...
Alright, and I Google search Eidolon, it basically means an entity or a thing. Basically, let me see. I got you guys. Okay. Yeah, in ancient Greek literature, an eidolon is an image Idolo doubled. Okay, so it's like a phantom or a ghost. Is a spirit imagined of a living or dead person, a shine or a phantom look-alike, or a human form. So let's see. Let's go back here. Well, not back. Click on the wiki real quick, see what it says. Yeah, ancient Greek, the Eidolon, blah blah blah, kind of like what I said. Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at it here. The concept of Eidolon was explored both by Homer and some other people, like let's see, from other shit that these orcs do. Let's see. Let's see. Because I know there was other saying with Eidolon. Because I know hold on, guys. Hold on. I apologize here. Just taking my time here real quick. I don't want to rush this stuff. So I put Eidolons on my phone and it said something else, but when I put Eidolons here, it said something else too. But either way, Eidolons are basically in this game, obviously, obviously these, like, if you research it, they're dead people, the Eidolons, or phantoms or ghosts. So they're past people. They're our ancestors, basically. That's what their Eidolons are in the Final Fantasy IX universe. Okay? So you have Garland that's trying to protect Gaia, which kind of reminds me of Planet X. Remember the whole thing that you hear about the story of Planet X, where they're trying to mine for gold and shit like that to help the atmosphere of the planet and shit. So kind of sounds familiar, right? With Gaia, I mean with Terra and Gaia and shit like that. And Gaia is just like, but you put but you put Tiamat, but you put Terra and Gaia. That's the thing that at least in this video game. So let's continue on.
One for himself, Garland swoops in on his ship and destroys the whole city. During the attack, a mother and her child escape the burning city by boat and land in the kingdom of Alexandria. The mother dies on the voyage while the child is found by the queen and adopted to be the new princess. The queen chops off her summoner horn and gives her the new name Garnet Piz Alexandros the 17th, as opposed to her old one, which was just Sarah. The only other surviving summoner is a child named Aiko, who now lives alone in the ruins of Medain Sari with a bunch of flying hamster babies. Meanwhile, Kuja's not too happy about having his new toys taken away, and now wants an Eidolon more than ever. But with the entire summoner population being seemingly wiped out, that's become pretty darn difficult. After a quick search on Mooglepedia, he learns that there existed an Eidolon so overpowered and meta-breaking that the summoners had to split its crystal into 4 shards and hide them across the continent. One shard is with Garnet in Alexandria, one with Aiko and Maiden Sari, one in Lindblum, and one in Clara. Because he's too lazy to go look for the shards himself, Kuja comes up with a plan to manipulate the Queen of Alexandria into conquering the entire continent and just kinda taking the shards from her after she's done all the hard work. He brainwashes her into turning into a Disney villain, and using the mist, he creates an army of soulless black mages that she can use as pawns to wage war.
You hear that? You hear that? Kuja creates other forms of species that's from the mist. And what's the mist? The mist is basically the people that have died that can't reincarnate. That's also stopping the flow of people that die in Gaia and come back and shit like that. But the people from Terra, they can come back. I'm saying that the souls from Terra and Gaia are being used in the machine to make these black mages. But also, when you really think about it, these black mages, they're not like in the game. They start off like Kuja. In the game, they're not conscious, and then eventually some become conscious. Like one of the main characters, Vivi, he becomes conscious. Okay. Then he sees his other brothers and sisters not being conscious, but all they do is kill. You know. Now I want to point this out. The people that made Garland, which or like that have the monkey tails. That's like what the main character is, Zidane. And then you have the people that created Garland. You have the Mist, which is also creating monsters and also black mages. And also you got summoners. Those four or three things right there, those beings are part of nature of Terra and Gaia. In one Final Fantasy game, when you have other Final Fantasy characters, Vivi says literally this. Vivi said that he cannot leave his ward because he's part of Gaia himself. Which is true, right? I mean, I just mentioned that the mist is part of the people that haven't transformed forward and they die. But they're using the mist to create black mages. So these people that have souls are reincarnating in a different way. And they're becoming different things. Right? They're either becoming what Zidane, the main character, is, or what Vivi is. Or monsters that you see in the game. Because the thing is, you gotta think about it too. All these they're all part of nature. All of these things are part of nature. Continue on even more. We're getting more deep here, guys. We're getting more deep with this game.
Airship is delivering black mages to Alexandria. One falls off and is found by an elderly frog guy named Sqawn. He initially plans to eat it, but decides not to because it's just too darn cute. Instead, he names it Vivi and raises the mage as if it was his own grandson. He teaches Vivi all about the outside world, and miraculously, he somehow develops emotions and becomes sentient. After Sqawn passes away, Vivi decides to venture out and see the world with his own glowing yellow eyes. Oh yeah, remember this little guy? Well, after being kicked off Garland's spaceship, a group of bandits found him and named him Zidane. Or Zidane, if you're one of the 5 people who played Dissidia. They raised him as one of their own and trained him to be a mischievous and, for some reason, very horny thief. Hey, look at that, we're finally at the start of the game. It only took like 20 minutes. After all the mind control shenanigans, Queen Braun is starting to go a little cuckoo for Kuja Puffs. So in order to keep Garnet and her crystal shards safe, the region of Limblum hires Zidane and his band of thieves to kidnap her and bring her back to Limblum. Zidane sneaks into the castle and meets Garnet, who conveniently enough was already running away, so the two agree to a good old wholesome kidnapping. They're chased around the castle by Steiner, an Alexandrian general who is the biggest Queen Braun stan in the kingdom. And on the way back to his airship, they also bump into Vivi, who's just kind of there to see the play, but ends up getting caught up in all the hubbub. Wacky hijinks ensue, and the 4 end up getting blasted out into the continent. Just like that, we've got our 4 party members stuck out in the open and forced to cooperate. Garnet wants to go get help from Limblum to stop the Queen, Steiner wants to return the princess to Alexandria, Vivi wants to explore the world, and Zidane wants to touch Garnet's butt. Ultimately, they decide to follow Garnet to Limblum, and along the way they stop in the extremely quiet village of Dalek and search for an airship. The villagers kidnap Vivi and bring him to an underground factory where he sees the black mages being created from mist. The party searches the town and eventually find him, but after seeing clones of himself being made on an assembly line, he begins to wonder if he truly isn't human after all.
And he's not. Vivi is not human. He's not. And the thing is too, he if another story of Final Fantasy was different, they would have told Vivi, yeah, Vivi, you're not human. You're your own person. You're different from all of us, and that's fine. And then Vivi would have noticed, yeah, you know what? I am different from all of you guys and stuff like that. And, and what's great about this game is that it teaches the player, if you pay attention to it, is that when damn, I was going to spoil it here, but I think he's going to tell you it anyways, this orc. So let's continue on. If he doesn't mention it, I'll mention it. It's with Kuja. It's about Kuja and Vivi at the same time. So
back on the surface, they steal an Alexandrian airship and land in Limblum. Garnet meets with the Regent, Sid the Ninth. Get it? Because this is Final Fantasy IX, it's just Sid in every game. There's now a weird bug thing because his mage wife caught him cheating. Instead of immediately mobilizing an army to stop Alexandria, Sid forces everyone to participate in his completely nonsensical hunting festival, which involves releasing a bunch of wild animals into the streets and endangering all the defenseless citizens of his kingdom. Hey, I'm beginning to see why his wife left him. So Zidane and Vivi enter the tournament, fight a walrus horse, and return to Sid only to learn that nearby city of Bermesia is being invaded by black mages. Zidane agrees to help, but tells Garnet to stay back so that she doesn't get hurt. Garnet gets all pouty and laces their food with sleeping weed, knocking the entire party out besides Steiny Boy. While the party is unconscious, Garnet and Steiner travel back to Alexandria to try to convince the Queen to maybe not commit genocide of an entire population. It goes about as well as expected. Hey, did you guys see her blue skin? I think she might be beyond reasoning. After waking up from their drug-induced nap, Vivi and Zidane travel to Vermisia with their new rat friend Freya as a guide. This is right about the point of the story where it turns from fantasy fun times to Genocide Simulator 2000. When the 3 arrive, they find the Vermisians being slaughtered left and right by black mages. And even worse, everyone's being really mean to Vivi just because he looks exactly similar to the people destroying the city. Making their way past the black mages and stepping over a few rat bodies, they find Braun talking with one of her generals.
Alright, speaking about everyone being mean to Vivi, yo man, these people are racist as fuck. Even the main characters were like, what the fuck? Like, there's so many people that are so racist to Vivi. It is ridiculous. It is. It's ridiculous. You see the racism in this game. You know, that's what I like about video games and all that, because they touch upon things that people don't want to talk about at all whatsoever. And then when you look at these video games, I know some people, you know, I know some brothers and sisters be like, oh, you can't, you know, play all this time of video games and all that. I'm like, well, no, shit. Of course you need to meditate, build, and do other stuff. Like, you know, it's just, there's some people that always think that, oh, you know, if you're playing video games, you're just doing that all day and stuff like that. I'm like, maybe that's you, but for me, my experience, I still meditate, I still build, and I still find the time to enjoy myself. What, like, I'm sure that's not me, and I'm sure you're not pointing it out to me, but if you're talking to me about that, I'm going to tell you this. You know? So, for example, but no one has really told me that. I just tell people it just to be like, hey, you know, because I'm not going to lie to anyone. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything that I'm going to say, you know? That's why they make these video games for a reason, guys, because, look, all of the stuff that they've been making, these video games and all that, these movies, they don't know how to make shit. So all these stories are different in a way, but also they're telling about our story. That's why I'm pointing out more with Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy IX is our story. It is. It's our story. Right? There's characters now in this game that are winked to our people and are winked to some of the stories that we have told over the years. And these orcs just grab it, change a few things, and regurgitate it in different ways. You know? So, moving on. Hello? There we go.
Beatrix and Kuja, who just kind of in the back spouting confusing metaphors. Oh yeah, just like everyone else we've met so far, Zidane has a case of a convenient plot amnesia, so he doesn't remember anything about Kuja or the fact that he's supposed to be like an angel of death or whatever. Our heroes eavesdrop and overhear their plans to attack the neighboring city of Clara, where they suspect one of the crystal shards is being held. But before they can leave, a Burmesian soldier challenges Beatrix to a fight, and the party is forced to jump in and protect them. They lose. Bad. And when I say bad, I mean like scripted lost bad. Kuja does a cool hair flip and flies off the Claire on his dragon that he just has now, I guess. Meanwhile, back in Alexandria, Steiner is still locked in prison and Garnet is having that Dolan sucked out of her by some Kefka cosplayers. So all...
Yeah, you see? She had summons inside of her. Remember, she's a summon. She can summon Eidolon's dagger, which is Princess Garnet in the game. So, her mother, which is not her mother, is taking the Eidolons out of her body. Now, to use it. The mother wants to use the Eidolons to destroy stuff. Now, in the game, you have an Eidolon called Ramu. I love the Eidolons in Final Fantasy. I love the summons in Final Fantasy games in general. Right? Some of them might be called Eidolons or Summoners or any type of name that they like to call them. So, in this game, Ramu tells the player that, you know, Dagger is still young and everything like that, but she still has a choice. Anyone that is good and evil can use an Eidolon. It just depends how they use them. You know, if you're wicked, obviously you're going to use an Eidolon, a summon that is for your wicked needs. But if you're a good person, you're going to use your summon, your Eidolon, for good needs. Right? Going back, what's an Eidolon? Eidolon is a dead person, a shade basically, or a phantom that looks like or a look-alike a human form, right? So you know how these wicked ones always likes to drain blood and shit like that, and do work with other deities that are wicked and shit like that. It's almost like that, but the difference is with this is that they're kidnapping stuff that belongs to the original people, and then they're using it in a wicked way. These wicked ones, at least in this world that we live in, they use blood. For us, we use crystals, or it just is a part of us anyways, because we are related to these beings, or these beings have some type of thing that is connected to us, almost like with Tinkerbell and Peter Pan, like that type of relationship. We do have relationships like that with other deities and stuff like that. Not all of us are like this, but some of us are, you know. So some of us had this, some of us did not. We're all different at the end of the day. For kind of us, some of us had swords that can talk to us and shit like that, and we used it, you know. So all of us are different. So go back to the video here. And the whole summoning stuff, the Eidolon stuff, always resonated with me so much, to be quite honest. That's one of the reasons why I'm a monster catcher in a way. I'm like a Pokemon trainer. You know, that's why I'm catching monsters in fantasy games or RPG games in general resonates with me so much. So going back, this is why I love Shin Megami Tensei series, because in that video game series you can collect monsters, which you can collect angels and demons from different types of mythologies, folklores, and all that shit. I love that fucking series to death. It's fucking amazing, man. Fucking amazing. Just you don't have to be part of. You don't even have to play the games. Just look at the lore and come back and talk to me. You're like, they put some of our brothers and sisters on that shit. And I'm like, yeah, they did. They did. They went all out. These orc folks in Japan, they went all out with that game. All right, remember when we were kids and no one didn't want us to play Pokemon because all that devil shit and shit like that. Compared to Shin Megami to Pokemon, could have been touched. To be quite honest, with all the people being like, oh, the devil shit and shit like that. Nah, man, we had fucking we had Baphomet in that fucking game, not in Pokemon, but in Shin Megami game. All right, we talk about fucking Shin Megami we're talking about Pokemon being like, oh, devil worship and shit like that, but yet Shin Megami doesn't get that, which is quite funny. Quite funny how that happened. I'm not saying Shin Megami is all that devil shit and all that. It's not. It's about all people at the end of the day. So, going back to this. So,
Oh no, not really the best day for our protagonists. Zidane, Vivi, and Freya pick their shattered egos off the ground and head to Claire to try to stop the incoming invasion. They warn the Vermisians, and Freya joins them in doing a ritual dance that does absolutely nothing. Just then, Beatrix crashes through the window and nabs the summoning shard and casually walks out the door. They try to stop her, but once again get their asses clapped. She escapes to a nearby airship where Braun is waiting with the new Eidolon powers that she sucked out of Garnet. Despite both Vermisian cities being in shambles and their summoning shard being stolen, which might have reminded you was the whole reason they attacked the city in the first place, Braun says screw it and summons a giant horse nuke, wiping the entire kingdom off the face of the planet. Even the super loyal Beatrix thinks it was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, what was it? Beatrix, right there, she summons Odin to destroy Clara, or the village with all the mouse people were at. Yeah, she destroys the shit out of that place. You look at the cutscene and you're like, oh. So, going back.
And understandably starts to question the Queen's sanity. Using some Black Mage teleporters, the party is able to get back to Alexandria before Braun and her fleet arrive. They reunite with Steiner and find Garnet passed out in the ritual chambers. After curb stomping some clowns, they bring Garnet upstairs where Braun and Beatrix are waiting for them. Once again, they fight Beatrix, and this time are finally able to defeat Knowledge Play News again. But after seeing the princess all dead and stuff, she finally accepts that the Queen is totally insane and turns sides against Alexandria. Freya joins her as the two hold off the incoming wave of monsters while the rest escape. In a rare change of heart, Steiner entrusts the princess to Zidane and opts to stay behind and fend off the Alexandrian troops, who are all wearing one pieces because Japan. The rest of the party take a mole cricket ride out of the kingdom and arrive in the forest near Limblum. Garnet is visited by an Eidolon who gives her back her summoner powers in exchange for reading his fanfiction. Just as things are starting to calm down, surprise! Braun is back and she's ready to nuke more towns with her Eidolons. After nearly half of Limblum gets swallowed up by a giant Atmos summon, the party decides that it might be easier to stop Kuja first, since he's the one creating black mages from the mist, and even if they did kill Braun, Kuja would probably just find another world leader to manipulate. Sid informs them that the mist is rumored to be created on the outer continent, but to get there they have to pass through an underground tunnel that's located in Quay's Marsh. It's here that they meet a local named Quina, who is pretty much the Jar Jar Binks of Final Fantasy IX. He, likes eating. That's his character. Quina chases around a frog and unintentionally finds the entrance to the underground tunnel. Making their way through the cave, they arrive in the settlement of Conde Petty, a town full of dwarves who all speak in thick Scottish accents. Actually, that's every dwarf ever. Never mind. Zidane spots a black mage buying groceries in town.
It's funny. They made them dwarves, but if you look at their design, they look like orcs. Yeah, this game knew what it was doing. This game knew exactly what it was doing. And the thing is, at least in that game, they don't do anything. Like, they don't do anything, malice or anything like that. They're just there to chill. Literally.
And they chase it through a nearby forest.
So, yeah, they go after the black mages in a nearby forest of all people and shit like that. Because, like, going back what I said, what Zidane is, the summoners and the black mages, they're us. That's what they are. They're us. And the Eidolons are us too, because those are ancestors. Those are what was it here? What was it here? If you look at Dolan's, it's the dead people, people that have moved on, people, your family members, your ancestors, So, really good here, man. I love Final Fantasy IX for aspects like this,
On the other side, the party is shocked to find themselves in a village full of sentient black mages, all like Vivi, who defected from the Alexandrian army and wished to live in peace. Vivi has a heart-to-heart with the village leader and learns that black mages are created only to have around a year lifespan until they eventually shut down. Because apparently he needed even more existential dread to worry about. The next morning, Garnet hears from the villagers that the source of the mist is coming from the nearby Aoife tree, but to gain access...
Alright. So, when Vivi gets upset that he only has a short lifespan, you gotta remember this. He's made out of mist, and the mist is also made out of the souls that haven't been reincarnated yet. Vivi lives forever. Alright? Seriously. Alright, let's go back. So, they want to go to a tree. The life tree.
Even more existential dread to worry about. The next morning, Garnet hears from the villagers that the source of the mist is coming from the nearby Aoife tree. But to gain access to the tree, the dwarves require that you be married. Zidane and Garnet go through with the marriage ritual, and yes, so do Vivi and Quina. While it's completely optional, how could you not? On the path to the Aoife tree, they run into Eiko, who, despite only being 6 years old, can already summon Eidolons, and is ready and willing to go on a perilous journey to save humanity, with a bunch of strangers that she just met. Which I know is pretty much standard for RPG characters, but let me remind you, she's 6.
Right.
When I was 6, I was eating glue and watching SpongeBob, but I also couldn't summon Bahuma in my living room, so maybe that changes people. Eiko takes them to the Aoife tree, where they destroy a second, smaller tree at the bottom, which stops the mist from being spread across the continent, meaning no more black mages, and also everyone who's flying in a mist-powered airship at the time is probably dead. With the mist stopped and the world saved, the party returns to Main Sari and live happily ever after. Oh fuck, is that early 2000s alt-rock I hear? Yeah, you thought you can get through a Final Fantasy game without an edgelord joining the party? Nah, Amrant's here, and he's ready to kidnap children and steal crystals, I guess. I mean, he does neither. He sucks. But he does join the party. Yeah, just get on the bench over there, please. The crew travels back to the Aoife tree and waits for Kuja to show up and advance the plot. Right on cue, he begins his routine monologue, but is thankfully stopped when Braun shows up with the entire Alexandrian fleet. She summons Bahamut and tries to kill Kuja because, reasons, and the two have an epic dragon showdown until Garland flies in and mind controls Bahamut. How can it do that? I don't know. Alien technology, I guess. Bahamut turns on Braun, okay, that didn't sound good, and destroys the entire Alexandrian fleet, bringing her down with it. As she takes her last breath, her mind is finally free from insanity, and she entrusts the kingdom of Alexandria to her daughter. Garnet takes the throne as the new queen, and everyone is happy for her except for Zidane, who's all, "No, you're so sexy, don't leave the party, oh." However, because this is Final Fantasy IX and 5 seconds can't go by without a kingdom being destroyed, Kuja shows up in Alexandria and begins blowing everything up with Bahamut. In order to protect the city, Eiko and Garnet combine all 4 of the crystal shards and summon Alexander, which, I shit you not, is the entire goddamn castle. I don't know how they got away with hiding that. Anyways,
so you get this epic battle, literally a kaiju fight between a castle and a dragon. This shit right here is the highlight of the game, yes. But also, you gotta realize, people, we had shit like this before. Okay? We had shit like this before. They're telling you in this game that this shit happened in our fucking lifetime when most likely way before these motherfuckers came here. Alright? Because, look, it's not like we didn't have our own problems on this planet and shit like that. We did. But when these orcs came here and these other beings came here, it became a lot worse than what we were going through. Again, it's not like we weren't fighting with our own sometimes. Some of our own wanted to do things that were like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So, stuff like that. But overall, we were harmonized with the planet. We were protective of the planet. We were protective with ourselves and our family and shit like that. So when shit like this happened, obviously, you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of I don't know if this is 100% true, because you know how sometimes these motherfuckers like to put false things every time you read something. So supposedly Enki and Enlil, right? They fought and a big giant explosion happened, and they didn't do it again because it was that bad, and they apologized for it. So Don't quote me on that. That's something that I found years ago. Okay? So don't tell me, oh, you're lying, or that's not true. Hey, if it's not true, it's not true. It's just, I'm telling you what I read literally years ago. I got, before I got really deep into this shit, I haven't looked at that shit now. It's just this right here, this image right here, just reminded me of it. That's really it. It's just this image right here, just reminded me of the thing that I talked about, So
Hamas is destroyed and the Kingdom of Alexandria saved for like 2 minutes until Garland blows everything up again. So close. This makes Kuja pretty mad at Garland because he wanted to use the power of Alexander to take over the world. I guess he just expected Garland to mind control Zappin and hand it over to him even though they've been beefing for the entirety of the game. Well, I guess that's exactly what he did with Bahamut, but still. As Kuja escapes on his airship, Sid, who's now a frog, not a bug, long story, spots some of the Black Mage villagers following him inside. The party returns to Black Mage Village to investigate and learn that most of the villagers left after Kuja promised them eternal life in exchange for their services. Which, of course, was a lie, because Kuja's a big dickhead. Deep in the desert, they find the entrance to Kuja's secret underground hideout and fall right into his trap. Kuja's new evil scheme is to suck the Eidolons out of Eiko, just like what Braun did to Garnet. But to complete the ritual, he needs a special stone that's hidden in some ruins that have an anti-magic barrier around them. And because Kuja has the muscular development of a prepubescent teen, he makes Zidane and 3 of his more burly friends get it for him. While the Muscle Brigade is having Terra's lore explained to them by some creepy wallheads, Sid no-clips out of his cell and frees the rest of the party. The whole squad reunites to confront Kuja, but before they can stop him, Eiko gets kidnapped. Kuja uses the Force to steal the magic stone from Zidane and flies off to the Lost Continent. They take Eiko to an underground ritual site and begin the extraction process. But because she's under 16, the ritual fails and only causes her pain. With no fucks left to give, Kuja orders the Clown crew to kill.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. With Dagger, they could have killed her, extracting the Eidolons, extracting her ancestors out of her. Just because these Eidolons are taking, male figures, does not mean they don't have the feminine energy inside of them, basically, of all that chaos and chaotic and shit like that. So, moving on. Remember, it's coming out of Dagger at the end of the day. She's a female energy, You can't have the female without you can't have the male without the female, basically, so.
Kill her in order to get her Eidolons. As a last resort, Eiko's pet Moogle enters trance, revealing itself to be the Eidolon Maydeen, enclosed in tiny hamster form by the summoners to watch over Eiko. Maydeen unleashes her ultimate attack, sacrificing herself in the process in order to protect Eiko. The rest of the party catches up, and Kuja scurries away saying something about having found the way to activate trance or something, I don't know. After a bit of searching, they find Sid's wife imprisoned in the hideout. Unsurprisingly, Kuja explained his whole evil plot to her, including all of its weaknesses during one of his many unprovoked evil speeches. She turns Sid back into a human and reveals that the secret to opening a gate to Terra is in a weird upside-down castle on the Forgotten Continent. Garnet gives herself a symbolic haircut, and the crew flies over to Ibsen's castle. When they arrive, Amaranth runs in ahead to prove a point that he doesn't need any friends. Wait. Who let Amaranth off the bench in the first place? Zidane finds 4 plot mirrors and saves Amaranth after he gets beat up by monsters off screen. Guess I need friends after all. Yeah, cool character arc, Amaranth. I get back on the bench. So to open a portal to Terra, each of the 4 plot mirrors need to be placed in 4 different shrines all at the same time. So the party splits into pairs, and of course, Quina is stuck with the players, because the game needed a reason to make you use them. After placing down the 4 mirrors, the portal to Terra opens up, and everyone jumps inside. When they arrive, Zidane sees a girl, and, like the horny fuckboy he is, follows her deep into the unknown. He soon finds himself in the city of Brand Vol, where all the genomes have been living for the past 1,000 years. The girl brings Zidane to Garland, who explains his origins and his purpose as the bringer of death on Gaia, and asks Zidane to take his place beside him as the ruler of the galaxy. Zidane swiftly tells him to fuck off, prompting Garland to mind zap him in an attempt to revert his memories back to being an empty genome. Zidane wakes up to the sounds of Eiko and Vivi calling his name, but after all he's seen and heard, he now accepts his existence as an enemy to Gaia, and believes himself unworthy to walk beside the people he once called friends. Leaving the 2 behind, he attempts to escape Terra alone, but finds himself unable to fend off the incoming wave of monsters all by himself. One by one, his companions jump in to lend a hand, reminding him that he doesn't have to face his problems alone, that he should learn to rely on them just like they relied on him. And I don't give a damn if you think this sounds corny, it's powerful.
Right.
Powerful. Together, they make their way to Garland for one final battle, but before they can land the finishing blow, Kuja floats nonchalantly down and kicks them off the space lily pad thing. With Garland now out of the picture, Kuja starts to gloat about being the new ruler of Terra. However, like a bad rash that you can't get rid of, Garland's voice lingers on, telling Kuja that he was created to be mortal, just like everyone else, and that his life was put on a timer to end whenever Zidane surpassed him in power. Kuja starts turning red, also like a bad rash, and enters his transform. Turns out that when Garland was zapping all those kingdoms, his ship was absorbing all the souls of the people it destroyed, and Kuja absorbed them all, allowing himself to finally activate trance. While he now possesses near godlike powers, he finds them meaningless if he's just gonna die like everyone else anyways. Classic case of nihilism. Don't worry, Kuja, we've all been there. In a fit of...
Sure. The case of the nihilism. Yes. So, here we go back to Kuja and Vivi. Remember, Vivi has a short lifespan too, but what did Vivi do? Still hanged out with his friends. Still appreciated life. Like you and me, at least with these physical bodies, we know we don't have a long time. We have a short lifespan. Obviously, that's going to change soon. But with these physical bodies, we had a short lifespan. Kind of like the Black Mages. Kind of like anyone in Final Fantasy IX or any of the Final Fantasy games or any RPG in general anyway. Depends what RPG, but still, Sometimes a character can fly thousands of feet in the air and land like this, like nothing happened. But sooner or later, they get blown up by a fucking nuke and all of a sudden they're dead. Use a high potion. Use a Phoenix down. Oh, that doesn't work. Final Fantasy V, anyone? But, you see, Kuja found out who he was. Well, Kuja woke up and started to find out who he was. And then when he did find out who he was, he snapped. But when Vivi found out who he was, he didn't snap. You see? This is the stuff that we need to talk about here because some of our brothers and sisters around here don't want to know who the fuck they are. And when they find out who they are, they want to cry like a little bitch. Why? Because that is why they need to be responsible once they know. Knowing thyself, knowing who you are, and knowing who your people are, that takes responsibility. Kuja didn't want to take that responsibility. Vivi did. And Vivi isn't even a grown-up. Let's go back.
She begins destroying Terra as Zidane rounds up the genomes and escapes on Garland's ship just in time before the planet collapses completely. With his temper tantrum now over, Kuja returns to Gaia and straight up rips a hole in time and space, leading back to the origins of the universe. Which, yes, is of course a crystal. But not just any crystal, this one's like 2 times bigger than average. The party follows him back in time, witnessing the birth and assimilation of Gaia, and eventually finding Kuja at the end about to destroy the universe crystal. They beat up his demon moth and beat up his demon self, but before he's defeated, Kuja uses his ultimate spell, destroying himself and putting the party on the brink of death. Speaking of death, did you know this game is a surprise final boss? Literally, death itself comes out from the void to bring the world back to zero. An existence of nothingness where no one has to suffer or be afraid of dying. After taking a few grand crosses to the face, the party ultimately defeats it and the world around them starts to collapse. Suddenly, an unknown force teleports them to Gaia and in front of the Aoife tree. Using their telepathic brotherly connection, Kuja speaks with Zidane from the bottom of the Aoife tree, revealing that he was the one who had teleported them away after finally realizing the mistakes of his actions. Zidane, being the good guy that he is, can't help but try to save Kuja despite everything that he's done to the planet, his friends, and well, pretty much everyone. Zidane says his goodbyes
Enoch wouldn't understand. It was his brother.
Garnet, and thanks Vivi for teaching him the importance of life, before journeying down to the Aoife tree in a poorly rendered cutscene. He finds Kuja at the bottom, who insists that he is beyond saving and that the world would be better off without him. But Zidane refuses to give up on his brother, telling him that he still has time to make up for his actions. But suddenly, the Aoife tree collapses on the two of them and the screen fades to black. Everyone is gathering in the now rebuilt Alexandria to see a play ran by Zidane's crew. Cutscenes play, catching us up on what has changed since the Aoife tree's collapse. Steiner and Beatrice got together, Eiko was adopted by Sid and his wife, Quinna became the castle's head cook, Freya reunited with her long-lost love, and even Amaranth found a friend to stick by his side. Besides Zidane, the only party member missing is Vivi, who is instead represented by a group of similar-looking black mages claiming to be Vivi's sons. A letter is read in between scenes, with the writer thanking Zidane while also giving their final farewells. If you can somehow read the letter between the tears flowing down your eyes, then it becomes clear the one writing the letter is Vivi himself, with his short lifespan having come to an end not long after the final battle. The play begins, and Garnet watches intently from her balcony. As it nears its conclusion, the lead star throws off their cloak, revealing themselves to be Zidane himself, who miraculously survived the Aoife tree's collapse. Also, he can see his princess one more time. Garnet dashes through the crowd and leaps into his arms as everyone celebrates the two lovers' heartfelt reunion. Credits play.
And that is it. That is it. That is Final Fantasy IX. So some of the backstory, to be quite honest, is very intriguing, and it wasn't part of the game until obviously like the whole thing with the summons dying and everything like that, and the whole thing with Garland in the beginning. You don't find that out until you play the game and shit like that, because they don't have that as an option to play before you go to the main story, which I think I would have liked a lot better. But this is not about the game. It's about how it is in a spiritual enlightenment way. This is the best. As anything that's been put out there that talks about our people, this one does it the best, to be quite honest. There's other ones that do it great too. You know, like the movie example, Avatar, great. Avatar, The Last Airbender, the TV series, great. But this one, if I was going to pick a video game, definitely Final Fantasy, 9, definitely. You know, so that's really it, guys. Maybe there's more to it. Let's see.
Wait, hold on, we're not done yet. What?
Oh, we're not done? Oh, I thought we were. So let's continue on then. Let's continue on while we're almost done here.
Let's take a second to talk about the major themes of Final Fantasy IX.
Right.
I think that, more than anything else, is a big reason why this game had such a lasting impact on everyone who played it, even 20 years after its release. While the game dives deep into many different themes, I find the major one to be about life and death, and coming to terms with your own mortality. This is highlighted primarily through Kuja and Vivi, with the two serving as contrasts to each other over the course of the story. When Kuja learns that he has a fixed lifespan, he rebels against death itself and tries to destroy all of humanity, believing that life is meaningless if one is doomed to die anyways. Similarly, Vivi learns early on that his life is on a fixed timer, but through the advice of Zidane and his friends, he ultimately decides to make the most of his short life, and spends it protecting those that he cares about the most. Both were created for the wrong reasons, to be disposable weapons of war, but the way each handles the cards that were dealt leads one to live a life full of hatred and destruction, while the other lives a meaningful life helping those that they love. Nobody lives forever, and you can either spend the short time you have on this planet in constant fear of death, or you can embrace it and make the most out of each and every day. That's what Final Fantasy IX has to say, and sometimes it takes hearing it from a 20-year-old game to finally come to terms with it for yourself.
Exactly. So that's it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you guys think down below. And yeah, tell me what you guys think about me breaking down this video, the game, and stuff like that. So I'll see you guys later. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And I will do the video about the spells and all that stuff. So about my experience with it, at least. So take care, guys, and be safe.